So one of the things that I love, Chuck, that you're talking about there is how about being in love with the learning process? If you can be in love with the learning process and not fear it, then that's a huge step forward. In other words, so many times we have this fear of, well, I don't know this and it's going to be difficult. But if you say, hey, look, I don't know this, but I'm going to love learning and I'm going to be okay to fall on my face. And let's talk about, I love the great example you just brought up, being able to be a kid. Chad's there with his daughter. She's a little bit older. I have a daughter about the same age, but I also have a daughter who's 1. And, Jim Rohn said, for every disciplined effort, there's multiple rewards. Well, if we want to break it down to something as simple as walking, now my 1-year-old is starting to walk. And for that effort, she's fallen and she hits her butt and she just goes right on her butt every time. But then now she's got some momentum and she's walking. What's the reward? Maybe getting places faster, maybe being able to see a little bit higher, being able to reach things on the counter, as simple as that. So for every disciplined effort that you guys make, whether it's physically, business, let's talk about our love lives, let's talk about our families. For every disciplined effort, there's multiple rewards. And we all know the rewards hang out there. That's the carrot on the stick. You just have to be able to visualize them. And I think most people, myself included, we go back to that one word. And that one word is consistency. Nothing happens without consistency. You can't be great for a day. You can't crush your business for a day. You can't show your wife or your husband how much you love them just for a day. It's a lifetime. So that's hugely important. And when you decide to do that, Tony Robbins says, when you decide what you want specifically, then you have to decide the second thing is, are you willing to pay the price to make it happen? And few do. Okay? So Jim Rohn, who is one of his mentors, for every discipline effort, there's a multiple rewards. And then Tony, you have to first decide that you want something specifically. And then, are you willing to pay the price? Are you willing to pay the price? I know there's some of you guys out there right now that are going through huge steps, huge efforts, and you want something. You've identified it. You might have written it on your vision board. And then you're coming to the spot where, oh my God, okay, here's the first bump in the road. Here's the first one where I'm going to have to actually take my hand, dig it in that rock, and pull myself up, and it's going to take some effort. And then you're asking yourself, am I willing to pay the price? Not just today, but every day. Does anybody have a story that they can share with us about something similar to that, where they were making a decision and they wanted to get over the top, and then they realized the first time, like, this is going to be a lot harder than I thought? Physically, mentally? Go ahead. I know, Jody, go ahead. I see you.
Well, for me, it was deciding that I was going to retire. I started 2 years ago using the Isagenix products, and I knew they had changed my life. And after about 5 days, and I just started talking to people and sharing. And at first, it was easy. I mean, people were willing to sign up, and everything was going smoothly and quickly. And so, the more that I went on, I knew that I was not happy in the job that I was in. I felt like it was a job that I was going to every day. I knew I had to make a decision, and I knew that I was more passionate about helping people with their health than I was about going into a classroom every day. And I just felt like I was doing the same thing, like a hamster on a wheel. And a lot of things have changed in education too. So for me, it was deciding to retire, but now I'm at the point where, summer has been the same way it's been every year for me. Now I'm getting close to where everybody else is going to be going back to school. So I'm starting to think about, wow, this is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be.
Okay, so that's what I wanted to get to.
Sorry, it's really emotional for me. So just, I'm very self-motivated. Right now I'm training for a marathon, and I'm able to put myself out there and work hard. It's just getting other people to see my vision and be willing to come along with me is what I seem to be having the trouble with.
Okay. So what I want to know is, what are the two emotions that are taking, it could be positive or negative. What are the two most prevalent emotions that are battling for first place right now?
Well, one is just fear of failing.
Very normal.
But I'm willing to fight. I mean, I'm a fighter. I've fought for a lot of things in my life, and I'm willing to fight. It's just the fear of the no all the time, asking and people saying no, or just not responding. And
what other emotion is fighting with fear? Is it a good emotion, or I would hope that there's a second.
Excitement. I'm excited. I mean, all the new promotion and the $1 Million Challenge, I'm very excited and I'm ready to go. It's just, I just want somebody to join with me and move on with me.
Okay. So this is good, because a lot of people feel this way, and then you have to say, so you got fear and excitement, two very powerful emotions. They're fighting for the first spot in your daily drive. And a lot of times fear is trying to push down excitement, saying, don't get too excited. What helps is there's a couple things. Fortitude. What's in your heart? Are you willing to pay the price? Are you willing to wake up and have some days that aren't good? And the second thing is your support system. I know your husband supports you a lot. I know there's other people on our team that support you a lot. So those are things that are going to help you break through. The question then you got to ask yourself is, am I willing to go 15 rounds? Because nothing good ever happens quick, and I think you are, and then you're going to have to make some adjustments along the way. The path is never just clear and easy. If it is, then we'd all be, again, riding those ponies, or we'd all be millionaires, or doing whatever we wanted in successful relationships. The path's never easy. So are you making the decisions, or are you committed? And this was something that we talked about. Because decisions you can make every day. I wake up and I decide to have a cup of coffee. I wake up and decide what color shirt I'm going to wear, what hat to put on. But a commitment is something that cannot be broken. A commitment is something that cannot be broken. So if you're making a decision one day, that's one thing. But if you're committed, then watch out. Don't get in the way of a person who's committed, because that is when things are serious. So that's the tiny line that you have to say. Here's fear and here's excitement. Here's a decision and here's a commitment. I'm going to let excitement win over fear, and I'm going to let my commitment drive my life, because commitment is just long-term. Go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to comment, Jody, because I heard the two emotions fighting for first place with fear and excitement. I think excitement had a lot more passion behind it. Fear, there was a ton of trepidation, obviously. But like what David said about commitment, the one thing I didn't hear was belief. And the reason why I feel like the belief is lacking is simply because I'm not sure how you feel yet about walking away from teaching. I know you're ready to do it and you've done it, but you were very, very trepidatious in your days here now in the summer as you approach the new year. Do you understand what I'm saying? I think we're losing our internet connection.
Are we? Want to move?
Are you hearing? Yeah.
All right, we're going to move closer to the other room. So Gus, go ahead while we're waiting. Gus, go ahead and while we're moving rooms.
Yeah, Jody, if you can unmute yourself with me. How long have you been doing this? When did you start?
2 years ago.
Okay. And when did you go full in from the beginning?
No.
And how long have you been going full out?
I would say about a year and a half.
Okay. And I'm at that same point too, a year and a half. And I thought I'd be further than I am, and I don't feel like I'm doing bad, but I thought I'd be further than I am. And somebody said something to me, and that person is Tony Robbins, because we were talking about that today, and I heard it just recently. It said people sometimes overestimate and get discouraged for what's possible in a short period of time, in just a few years, but they, what they're capable in themselves. but then they underestimate what's capable for the long run by being consistent in their decisions and their actions, right? So a year and a half is not really a lot of time for what you've been doing. You're still in the learning stage. It's like a 4-year college university, right?
Right.
You're still a sophomore. You're halfway through your sophomore year.
Yeah.
You know, so am I. You know, we got a long way to go. We got a lot more no's to get. And when you get excited about something and you feel you go full force, and what happened to me a little while ago was I lost the connection part of this, the relationship building part. At the beginning, I was building relationships because I wasn't so all in, and it was just people just started to come around and it felt easy. But then when I went all in initially, I felt like I was overdoing it, and I felt like I wasn't really connecting as deep as I should have, and I didn't let the process happen. So if you're getting excited and you're really passionate about it, you know, you can tell me, do you feel like maybe sometimes you're pushing a little bit, not pushing too hard, but maybe just trying to make a sale rather than build a relationship too soon because you're so anxious to get people on board? Is that possible?
Well, it is. And I think sometimes I have an excuse, like my husband and I were talking last night, and I just said, you know, for 26 years, I had a captive audience. And they had no choice. They were in that room with me. And, you know, I was able to take them from point A to point B, and I could get them enthused and excited about learning because, again, Angelique, I had belief in what I was doing. So for me, it is the conversations because, you know, I was just talking at them all the time. There was little time for conversation with those kids. I mean, we had some time that I was learning about them. And he said, Jody, you need to stop making excuses. He goes, that's done. That's over with. He goes, you need to get past that and you need to believe in yourself because you can do this. He said, and you need to have the conversations and you need to have the belief.
So Jody, yeah, your husband nailed it. You have a foot in two worlds, one foot in each world. One in your teaching world and one in your Isagenix world. And I think you have to just put yourself back in the place too. What was the first day like when you started teaching?
Scary. Scary, but exciting.
So same thing, scary and excited, right? So utilize those emotions to your advantage in this new position. Now you're just facing a classroom of one. Gaining one person's belief, one person's trust in you, educating one. Taking one to the next level, taking one through a new journey in life, teaching another person. And then you start, it's a ripple effect, one after the other.
You're starting to clap. No one's clapping with you. Mm-hmm. And you're wondering when someone's going to start this group clap. No one's joining. And all of a sudden it's one other person. And then two. And then look, everybody on the screen now, everybody starts to clap. Look, all of a sudden, look, now everybody's clapping. The whole screen's clapping. That's how momentum starts, you know? And thank you guys for participating with that. Because even at the beginning, I'm like, don't they see me clapping? And then eventually people do. And again, there's a million sound bites out there. There's a million quotes. This is one of my favorite. One person with a belief is equal to the force of 99 who only have an interest. So if your belief is rock solid and you're dealing with people who only have interest, your goal is to get one other person to have a belief. That person who's, I'm interested, but I need you to believe. You know, I mean, if we go back to the oldest teacher, you know, when Christ was there and people were around, not a lot of people at first maybe believed him. You gotta just look. That's the self-development book. 12 people with beliefs. He never wrote a word down. Nope. The biggest selling book in the history of the world, and the guy never wrote a single word down. But he believed so much, and he told people so much that people started to come in. So Jody's got a great example. I know there's a lot of people out there like Jody. You know, then being prepared for success. I don't know if any of my people here are from the Northeast, but I am a diehard Dolphins fan. And as much as I hate the New England Patriots, I always got to give credit to Tom Brady. Guy was drafted in the 7th round. Many 7th round draft picks, you know what they call? They call the last person in the 7th round Mr. Irrelevant. Okay? Many 7th round draft picks don't amount to squat. The average career in the NFL is 3 years. Most 7th round draft picks don't even make it in the first year. Tom Brady came out of college. Not a lot of people knew who he was, but he was prepared. Doesn't have the biggest arm, not the biggest guy. He's prepared. You bet your bottom dollar there's no off season for him. He's taking advantage. When he goes onto the field, he not only knows what he's going to do, he knows what the other team's going to do. It's film study. That's the stuff that's not sexy, okay? The stuff that is not fun and sexy, look for that, and then you're going to find your most powerful people. You're going to find your most successful people are the people who are doing the things that you never know about. It's not being in front of the audience. It's being in the middle taking notes. We go back to Tracy O'Malley, sitting in the front row at every single event, taking notes, even when she was successful. Holding her own event, but not speaking at her own event sometimes. Letting her team have the spotlight, but taking notes behind the scenes. You know, I look for my wife here, who she was a martial artist. All the things that she did that nobody saw. How many times a day did you practice, Ange?
How many times a day?
How long were your practices when you were studying for black belt?
4 hours. 4 hours a day.
I've never worked out 4 hours a day. That's a commitment. That's a decision. What drove you?
I wanted to be the best.
But why?
Because it was a sport of one to be better than who I was yesterday.
And when you were practicing for your black belt, you blew your knee out in the middle of the practice.
No, in the middle of testing.
In the middle of testing for a black belt. Blows her knee out. Goes to the closet, cries a little bit. It's all right to cry, right? Mm-hmm. Comes out, and her instructor says, "Okay, let's take you to the hospital and get that knee looked at." What do you say?
I knew that I wouldn't be able to make up my testing the next week because I knew I completely blew out my knee. So I asked permission to finish my testing that moment. And I didn't have a good leg to stand on because I already had one repaired ACL.
So they held you up?
By my belt, by my uniform, and I asked permission to break all 3 of my board stations with my hands. So the classroom assistants held my pants so that I could have like some solid legs behind me. And I broke 3 stations with hand techniques, and I got my black belt that night while sitting. And then I went to the ER after that.
So if you don't know her whole story, I won't get into it now, but she's overcome injury at least 3 times. So blew out her knee, came back, blew out the other one 6 months later, came back, had to rehab. And what happens is she proved to herself. And this is the most important thing. This is where it all comes to a culmination here on this call. And then we're going to discuss this. The surest way to create a belief that you can do something is to do it. The surest way that you can create a belief to do something is to do it, and do it just once. Because if you succeed once, you're more likely to have the confidence and the experience to do it again. Whoa. Yeah. It's not earth-shattering. That's pretty much common sense to everybody, right? But it's so true. The fact that she pulled her belt up and did it gave her the confidence to do all these other things in life, gave her the confidence to push out a 10-pound baby girl with no drugs. And I'm blowing her up a little bit because she deserves it. But let's look at something as simple as our first kiss. Let's go back to when we were all teenagers. And I had braces on for 2 years. And I remember I'm not kissing anyone with braces on, because when you have braces on, you just, you don't want to do anything except talk to people like this, right? So we're all nervous. What if I'm terrible at it? No one ever taught us. And then you do it, and then all of a sudden, that's not bad. What about when we went to Hawaii last week? We jumped off a cliff. I sat on that cliff for 10 minutes, and I almost walked back 3 times. And I looked over, and I looked over, and I thought about all the things that could go wrong, all the things that could happen. And I said, wait, I tell people to overcome their fears, and I'm not going to overcome my own, and I'm going to walk off this cliff. None of you guys would have known that, because I sure as hell wouldn't have came back and told you I walked off the cliff. But in my heart, I had to prove to myself. That's what it takes. Mm-hmm. Do it once. Whether it's a first kiss, jumping off a cliff, whether it's going into that new class, taking a yoga class, whether it's calling somebody up that you're nervous about, do it once. Get over the fear. Know in your hearts that, okay, it wasn't as bad as my brain was telling me. and then it happens. Does anybody have an instance like that where they thought something was going to be impossible and they did it once?
I just want to say before someone adds there, what you just mentioned about the cliff and even the first kiss. Like, I was there when we did the cliff jumping, and he stood there for like 20 minutes and stared at the water, and he was like, no, wanted to do this and said, I'm going to do this. But his body language, his actions, and even the words coming out of his mouth were not certain. Even though he was saying he was going to do it, the certainty behind the energy of the word wasn't there. So same thing with your first kiss. You inside, maybe you're like, I'm going to do this, I'm going in for it. But man, your body language and your actions and your nervousness are very, very evident. And that trepidation is very contagious. So think about that when you are having this belief of going to do this business and this commitment to do this business. And then you're having those conversations, yet you might be saying all the right things because you've emulated a leader and maybe you've memorized a script, but internally you are so messed up and so conflicted because you're worried about the outcome and attached to the outcome that they read that all over you like a book. And doesn't make me confident to want to join you. That's for darn sure.
Yep.
I mean, David made it look really painful standing up there.
Well, what two emotions were right there? Here was fear and here was excitement. And fear was winning and winning and winning. And excitement was like, man, but think about, what do we think about? The end result. Mm-hmm. The only thing that got me to go off and take that final jump was the end result. What was the end result? Adrenaline. The feeling, I kept thinking, what do you think, guys, was in my head, the first thought that was trying to battle fear? What was the excitement part? What's it going to feel like when I hit that water? How exhilarating is it going to feel when your feet go through and you're underwater for that half a second and you've plunged and the first thought in your head is, I did it. Before your head even comes up above the surface, in that half a second where your feet go under and your whole body goes under, you're already thinking, oh my gosh, I just did it. I overcame that fear and that adrenaline. That's before you even come to the surface that's happening. What a great metaphor for life. What a great metaphor for your business.
What if we go back to that same cliff right now? You're not going to stand there for 20 minutes. You're not going to have that conversation. You're going to get up there, go to the same spot you did it. You're going to know you did it before, and you're going to jump. What happens when you do something one time? Like he said, just do it once. And now your belief has been solidified. You've done it. You had the experience. You know the feelings. Those feelings of the outcome have now overridden the feelings of what if the outcome. So that's why it's so important to at least make the commitment and do it.
Well, let's draw the parallel. What else was going on that cliff? There was a young man there, probably 18 years old, who was doing backflips off the cliff with a GoPro. So what does that mean? How many of you guys have watched somebody doing this business, have watched somebody in the gym that's got the body you want, that's got the success you want, and it looks so easy for them? But you're still going, I can't do it. That guy's doing a backflip. All I want to do is jump. Why? You see what happens? There's always that parallel there. Bob, what do you have to say? You're on mute. There you go. I can hear you now.
All right. How is everybody? Everyone doing all right?
Doing good, Bob.
Good, guys. So going back to what you said about jumping off that cliff and practicing pretty much what you preach, you know, I'm in a position of influence at work, been with Publix for 20 years, and I go around preaching. You should do this, you should do that. And here I am 2 weeks ago, wanting to go back to school, wanting, wishing. Finally said to myself, as you did, let me just do it. So here I am. I signed up. I'm 35. Who cares? That's not even it. It's just the fear, the doubt, and wanting to know if you can do it. And then when you have that outcome, as you hit that water, you know you did it, and there you are. So it's going to be a long road, a battle, but I'm going to do it. And I want to do it, and you got to make that commitment. Take that journey. Don't be scared, you know?
I love what you said, because we can always reinvent ourselves. I earlier in the year, I researched a lot of people who reinvented themselves midway. Because one of the things, I'm proud of Bob, because one of the things that holds people back is it's too late. Can't do it. Too old. It take too long. So I started looking at all these people who had reinvented themselves and overcome adversity. You know, one of my favorite examples is we talk about people who didn't look like they had a lot going on for them. Susan Boyle. right? She won America's Got Talent or whatever. Not America's, the
Yeah.
English version, was it, with
Yeah.
Simon Cowell? Here's a girl, not very attractive, older in life. All of a sudden, she had that one talent, her voice, belted it out. You know, she was the most paid entertainer. I think she's made over $90 million. And she's gone off into all these other adventures. She's got all these other companies started because she took that one opportunity. Sometimes it's just saying to yourself, you know, it doesn't matter how old I am. I'm not happy with where I am right now. Because Bob's 35 and Bob could live to 105. So he might only live the first quarter of his life, the first 1/3 of his life. So he's making a decision, I want to go and do other things. I totally commend you. And I think no matter how old you are, I know Liz Merritt's doing the same thing. We talked to her a lot. She's making the decision later in life to go in a different direction and go balls to the wall and burn the ships and not look back. That's the key, right?
And boy, did she.
Yeah. Good, Bob. Tiffany, you wanted to add something? Tiffany Mason?
So, I just wanted to kind of add about doing the thing over and over again. This last week, my family, we went to St. Croix, and we did this thing where we did horseback riding. And, you know, kind of this huge animal, you really have to almost trust whenever you're on top of, you know, you're sitting on it, that it's going to keep you safe. And we actually rode out into the ocean with these horses, and my guide had me stand on the horse. And I was so afraid of falling. And I knew I was going to fall. I don't have really great balance. And he kept telling me, stand up, stand up. And I didn't want to trust him or the horse. And I stood up because he told me to, and I fell. And I fell into the water, and he said, now do it again. He said, because now you have faith in the water. And so I did it again, and I did it again, and I did it again. And by the second time, it was amazing because I already knew I was going to fall. And it was okay that I was falling because I survived the fall. And so I mean, after like the fourth time of doing it, every time I stood up, the excitement just built because I knew that I was going to fall and it was okay. But the feeling of swimming in the ocean and even just the fall, embracing the fall. So I kind of, that Jody, what you said, it's like you have to almost embrace that fear and just not let it kind of hold you back from the fall, you know. And I think that so many times in life that fear holds us back. While I was on vacation, I read You Are a Badass. Angelique, You Are a Badass. There are so many we are surrounded by badass women, men on this journey. Jody, have you read this book? Okay. You need to just kind of embrace your inner badass there. But one of the things when I was reading this, and I kind of took tally marks as I was reading it, the number one message that I got from this was to love yourself. Like she must have said that 22 times. So as we're on this journey, it's like, that's the one thing I took away from this. It's like everything that we do, we need to love ourselves. Love every part of this journey. You're in a huge transition in your life. All of us seem to be on that. And it's like embracing that part of just truly enjoying your life and, you know, knowing we're gonna fall. That's part of, you know, learning and loving who we are through that process, because that's truly when you change it. We're all here for personal development. We're all here to be the best version of ourselves. Just like Angelique said, she wasn't competing to prove to anyone else but herself that she was the number one person. So I think when we start to compare ourselves, because my husband, just so you know, whenever he got on that horse and he stood up, he did flips. And I obviously, there's no way I was going to even attempt to do a flip, but I didn't compare my experience to him. I still enjoyed jumping into that ocean with those horses. If I would have compared my experience to him, you know, obviously he embraced the flip. So it's like that was my huge thing. I think that, Jody, I kind of resonate so much with you, that back to school excitement that every teacher feels. You're missing that, but you need to embrace this next journey, you know, of where you're headed, and just know that you're gonna fail, but just embrace that fall.
And you're going to replace it with another emotion. You know, that's the thing. We get so used to our comfort zone and what we're a comfort zone. Like Bob, he's used to his comfort zone, and it's hard to get out of that. But then you replace it with the other emotion, and again, it's usually fear and excitement are usually the two that are battling. Mm-hmm. And I'll give you an actual exercise. You know, I've told you guys in the past, it's always a great exercise to look yourself in the mirror and just don't say anything. Get real close to the mirror and just look into your pupils and examine your face and examine who you are, because we see other people, but we don't look at ourselves that closely, because most of the time that's uncomfortable to sit there and look at yourself, and we want to look away. We're not happy with our face. We're not happy with the wrinkles that we see. We're not happy with the grays in our beard and our hair. So we criticize ourselves. But you got to get comfortable. You got to love yourself, like Angelique said. So here's another exercise. Whatever you're motivated by right now, whether it's Bob going back to school, whether it's Jody leaving her school, whether it's you guys starting a new relationship, a new path, I would challenge you to get excited and take your iPhone and record yourself for 30 seconds to a minute talking about your excitement about what you're about to do. Hey, David, you know what? You've always wanted to do this, and you're about to start off on this journey. I know it's going to be hard, but I know you can do it, because when you accomplish it, you're going to have this, 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 and this, and you save that. Because I think the most important thing is we all are human. We will all fall. Not everybody is built like Tony Robbins. Not everybody has the mindset to get up when they blow out their knee like Angelique. We need a support system. Sometimes it's your spouse. Sometimes it's your best friend. Sometimes it's somebody who comes out of the blue and you just identify with. But you're your own best support system. Your own words, your own emotions resonate best with you. And what happens is we get detached from our intentions. We get detached from our goal because we don't remind ourselves. And it's hard to tell yourself that. So if you have that video and you're doubting yourself, and it's the summertime and everyone's going back to school, or you're scared and you're going to jump off that horse again, look back to that video and just push play. Keep it on your cell phone. Keep it on your laptop and press play. Remind yourself what you were doing and your emotions. You're your own best motivator. Nobody knows why you want it more than you do in your heart. And that could be something that you share just between yourself, and it helps to go back. Do that video.
Comparison is the thief of joy. I mean, to the nth degree. And then when you're comparing, you end up not doing. And when you're not doing, you end up being complacent, right, Bob? So Bob is a prime example of that. He wasn't doing. Now he finally is doing it. But complacency in my book is the danger, big danger zone. Because when you're complacent, you literally have lived in this life of mediocrity and satisfaction, and you never try. You're never willing to even get up and try because you're so afraid of falling down, or so afraid of failing, or so afraid of the no, that you're not even giving yourself the freedom to F up a little bit. Okay? You have to be okay with that. Because if you're not effing up a little bit, you haven't tried in the first place.
Yeah.
Period. So then look at that and say, well, what am I fearing more? The idea of messing up or staying exactly the same forever? I know the pain for me staying the same is far greater than screwing up and blowing out another knee. Okay? Far greater. Because I do not want to be the same person tomorrow and the next day and the next day that I was last year.
Christine? Pritchard?
Yeah, I always hate following Angelique. She gives us these deep bombs, and then I was supposed to say something wise, but it was right to what you and Tiffany both said about comparison and the thief of joy. And I think back to, I've done now 4 triathlons since I started Isagenix 15 months ago, and each one is just a little bit longer. And this past one a month ago was horrifying to me because it was a lake swim, and I do not swim in lakes. I swim in pools where when I get tired, I can grab the edge and the lifeguard can coach me through it. But so we did a mile in a lake, and I swear that until the moment my feet hit the water that morning, I was done. That this was going to be the last thing I ever did in my life. I would probably die in the water. And sure enough, halfway into the swim, my leg cramped up, and I thought, yeah, I'm just going to drown here in the middle of the lake with my boyfriend's kids on the beach watching me sink. But I got through it. The cramp went away, and you're all laughing at, I was the last person out of the lake of the 500 people that started. 500 seals went in, and one lowly Kirsty joke came out at the end 50 minutes later. But getting out to that, to the beach, and my boyfriend's kids were on the beach and his dad, and they were so happy to see me, CJ, you know, and I knew my time was rotten and that I was only a third of the way through the day, but it was knowing that I went out, the worst thing that I was waiting for it to happen happened, and I survived. I got through, and then the rest of the race was amazing. Like, I had an amazing experience from the bike and the run, and the time was still better than I thought it was going to be. But the fact that, yes, I did almost drown, but I survived. And see, you know, they don't care. They all said, you did so good. You did so good. And I'm thinking, I almost died. I didn't do anything good, you know, but and now that's the thing. I still don't ever want to go out in the lake and swim again, but I know that I wouldn't die if that happened. And it was exciting. It was crazy. Like you said, the adrenaline, and even that moment when that cramp hit halfway and I went, this is it. This is really how it's finishing for me. But it was, like you said, that excitement, adrenaline. So now my daily list is what else is scaring the crap out of me today that I might as well just go and put a nail in it and call it quits. So this whole career and network every day is like that, because every phone call I make to a stranger or a friend and try to talk to them about joining me, it's that they might laugh, they might tell you you're crazy, you might not make any money ever again, you know, but it's that fear. And then Monday morning when the email comes in from Isagenix, I go, ha, I gotcha. It's okay. I will, I can, you know. So it's when you feel the fear, guys, do that, because then you know you're moving forward. Yeah,
you're right. The fear of that lake and the fear of it's always greater than what we think it is. We make it out to be, because that's human nature. It's our minds to create more fear. Like we said, the only ones that don't have fear are babies. Why do we put up a baby gate on our stairs? Because the baby has no fear. She'll just walk right there. She doesn't going down the stairs to me, and she'll do it. I was 18 years old, 225 pounds, getting ready to go to college, and I had to get my measles shot again. And I hadn't got a shot since I was 3. And I sat there like this, and the lady goes, "We're done." And I said, "What?" She said, "We're done." I go, "I didn't even feel it." Yeah, and I was the big guy in the room, scared to get a shot. What about lightness and dark? You could have a house that at nighttime is the creepiest house in the world. Sunrise, it's the most beautiful place you've ever seen. Why? Because your mind creates that fear between light and dark, what's known and what's not known. When it's dark out, you can't see, and you don't know what's around the corner. But when it's light out, all of a sudden everything becomes clear, and there is no fear. When Bob takes that risk, when Jody takes that risk, when Liz Merritt takes that risk, when Tiffany takes that risk, it's because we don't know what's around the corner. And there's where our fear lies. Christine hasn't been in the lake. That's where her fear lies.
There's a couple kinds of fear, though. There's a fear that will retract you, like absolutely have no desire to do something. And there's a fear that excites you. So like Jody, you're fearful and excited. So if that fear is accompanied with an excitement, then you know that's the thing that you have to go for. And then there's a fear that's retracting, like I have absolutely no desire to do that. Christine talks about going into a lake. I grew up in the ocean. I'll go into the ocean all day long, even though it's unknown for me. I don't want to go in a lake. I feel like there's weird stuff in the lakes, and I don't know anything about lakes, and they're murky, and I don't have a desire. Does that make me feel less than Christine because she just swam in a lake? No, girl, more power to you. So you have to remember that when you start trying to go after things, that it's like having soul ADD, like ADD for your soul, okay? If you aren't doing the things that your soul wants you to do, it's literally like taking your soul and digging a hole 6 feet under the ground and putting dirt on it and burying it alive, okay? If you're trying to do the things because someone else is doing it, because you feel like that's what you have to do now because someone else did it, now you're comparing, and now you're not going after anything at all, and you have just given your soul ADD, okay? So stop chasing after the shiny objects that are distracting you from what you truly, truly want. I have no desire to jump into a lake, so I'm not going to go try to jump in a lake. I'm going to pour all of my energy into the one thing that scares me in an excited kind of way, okay? So that's the kind of fear you need to go after. That's the fear that you get on the same equal playing field, the same scales of justice with your why. The fear of not what would happen if I did, what would happen if I don't? What will your life look like if you don't complete this? How will your soul feel if you don't do this? I can't read that. I can't read it, but
Here?
Corey's tattoo.
Oh.
Yeah, but seriously, that's the kind of, there's two types of fear. What if you fly? Absolutely. So those are the types of two fears. So be aware of those. Don't start going after things that are like, oh, so-and-so did it and that's how it worked for them. So now I've got to try to do that. So like when you guys go to celebration and you see a leader doing something some way that perhaps worked for them, but you're like, ugh, it doesn't really make me feel good. I'm not sure if that's my personality. Do not try to do that. Don't try to do that. Stop trying to be other people. You're giving your soul ADD. Okay? Be yourself. Maintain your authenticity. Be true to who you are. Trust yourself. Going back to what Tiffany just said. It wasn't that she didn't trust the man and trust the Lord. She didn't trust herself. Trust yourself. Trust yourself enough to get past the fear that is disabling you and allow it to enable you to do those things. But I'm not going to go jump in a lake. Like, that's not who I am, right? I don't have a desire to jump in a lake. I'll jump in the ocean all day long. I'll surf in the ocean. It scared the crap out of me because I was like, I'm going to be eaten by a shark. I'm going to surf in Hawaii. I'm going to be eaten by a shark and never see my kids again. But I surfed. I rode the energy of the sun. It changed my life. I kept paddling. Every time I fell out, I paddled again. And I willingly hurt my body to get out to the next wave because it was so exhilarating and it freed me. And now I'll do it over and over and over and over again, right? So those are the differences between the types of fear. Pay attention to that. David's typing. Okay.
So, yeah, as we got about 2 more minutes here, I'll open it up if anyone else wants to make a quick point. But I would really encourage you guys, because some of you guys are right in that big transition. And I know some of it's small, but you remember, I talk to you guys on an individual basis, and I know your stories. And I know some of you guys are overcoming some heavy-duty shit right now in your life. Mm-hmm. Personally, and there's no better motivator than yourself. Get in a state where you feel comfortable. Make that video with just you looking at yourself, telling yourself what you want to do and why you want to do it. And there's no turning back. And when you feel doubt, go to that. And you need an accountability partner. Everybody asks us what our best advice is. And our best advice sometimes is get one person that's willing to toe the line with you. You know, and that's what Tony Escobar said. Tony Escobar's been in Isagenix for 20 years. And he says, you need a partner. You need someone that's going to toe the line with you at the beginning, your ISA buddy. And if it's I don't like just talking about Isagenix on these calls. I like talking about life. Because often if our life is in order, then Isagenix is a lot easier. If our life's not in order, then it gets pushed back. So I want to talk about you having a love of yourself. Good relationships. If your personal relationships is in the tank right now, that's okay. Love yourself first. The personal relationship will come. Once you taste success, once you've done that and you've created that belief and you want to do it over and over again, don't let anything take it away from you. Don't let anything take it away from you. Because just like swimming, what happens if you stop moving your arms? You sink. Okay? You can't stop moving your arms once you start. There's a lot of people out there, most people out there are going to sit there and they're going to want to float. And what happens when you float?
You get carried with the tide.
The current takes you. Okay, guys? We're better than that. We're our support system. If you guys are on here right now and you need the support, think about this. One of these days, you're going to be the ones giving the support. And we always, always all need it, no matter how confident we are. The most confident people in the world need support. Tony Robbins has his wife. He always talks about his wife. You know, we talk about the people who need support. Sometimes you need it in a group setting. Sometimes it's just that one person you can confide in. You know, I always look at Corey Kinnear. Corey, you and Lucy are so tight, and I know that's your best friend, and you guys do everything together, and I admire that. She came to visit Angelique. She drove 2 hours to come to her mom's funeral, and Lucy was with her, and then they drove right back 2 hours. Now, that was a huge, huge emotional thing. Grateful. And you see that support staff, we crave that as human beings. We all go back to that human side. So if anybody has anything they want to say, final thoughts, 30 seconds.
I got something.
Go ahead, guys.
It's funny because this popped up this morning talking about Tony Robbins. So I'm going to leave you with a little a little quote that I posted exactly 6 years ago to the day. And it says, life is constantly testing us for our level of commitment, and life's greatest rewards are reserved for those who demonstrate a never-ending commitment to act until they achieve. This level of resolve can move mountains, but it must be constant and consistent. As simplistic as that may sound, it is the common denominator separating those who live their dreams from those who live in regret.
God is constantly testing you to your level of commitment and resolve. So like David and Goliath, we just were studying that story. You know, he was given a sword and a shield. He's like, I don't want that. I'm going to go in with what I know. I'm going to bring a slingshot. And he brought 5 rocks because Goliath had 4 brothers. Now talk about confidence, right? He knew he had God on his side. So if you're going to be committed to anything, right, you have to have so much resolve and so much confidence and so much commitment that God, it can test you over and over and over again, that it's never, ever, ever you're never going to waver. Awesome.
I want to thank you guys. I want to thank all of you guys who contributed with your stories and by getting on here. And I want to just say, you know, on Tuesdays, there's always so much optimism. We have that whole week. And then on Fridays, we do it again because there's the weekend. So that's why we space these calls out. You know, we wake up, it's 6:30 a.m. when we start these here on the West Coast. So we wake up for you guys, not that we would sleep in that much longer with our kids, but certainly nice to sleep in. But it's waking up with intention. It's rising, because if you hear these messages sometimes at 9, 10 o'clock at night, it's like, great, but you need it. So take this message today. Tell one other person. Make sure that you do one thing today that maybe gets you closer to that goal. One thing that you say, I'm not going to be scared anymore, and certainly build on this. I want to thank you all for joining us. And final thoughts?
Fear and do it anyway. That's what I always say.
Feel the fear and do it anyway. Have a great week, and we'll see you guys all again on Friday.
Bye, everybody.